The summer night was quiet except for the crickets when 10-year-old Jack heard the crash. His bedroom window rattled, and the trees behind his house lit up with a strange blue light. Most kids would have hidden under their blankets, but Jack wasn't most kids. He grabbed his flashlight, pulled on his rubber boots, and climbed down the oak tree next to his window. The woods were different at night. Every shadow seemed alive, and the branches reached for him like long fingers. But Jack kept walking, following the trail of broken twigs and disturbed leaves. The blue glow got stronger with each step. Then he saw it. A metal pod, about the size of his dad's car, had carved a path through the trees. Steam rose from its surface, and parts of it glowed with that strange blue light. Jack's hands shook as he moved closer, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. A crack appeared in the pod's surface. Jack jumped back, nearly dropping his flashlight. The crack grew wider, and a soft whimper came from inside. Not a scary sound. It sounded like someone was hurt. "Hello," Jack whispered, inching forward. "Are you okay?" The pod opened fully, and Jack's mouth fell open. Inside was a girl about his age, but she wasn't like any girl he'd ever seen. Her skin was light blue, like the summer sky, and her hair looked like it was made of tiny crystals that caught and scattered his flashlight's beam. She was curled up in a ball, holding her arm, and there was a dark purple liquid that Jack guessed was blood. Asterisk, please. Help. Asterisk. The voice was in his head. Jack almost ran away then, but something stopped him. The girl looked so scared, and her eyes, they were completely silver, but somehow full of fear and hope at the same time. "You're hurt," Jack said, trying to sound braver than he felt. "Wait here. I'll get help." Asterisk, no asterisk. The voice in his head was urgent. Asterisk, bad people looking. "Please, hide me." Asterisk. Jack understood then. She wasn't just hurt, she was running from someone. He thought quickly. "Can you walk? My treehouse is close. Nobody knows about it except me." The alien girl tried to stand but stumbled. Jack caught her before she fell, surprised to find she was lighter than she looked. Her skin felt cool, like touching a window on a spring morning. It took them 15 minutes to reach the treehouse, with Jack helping her every step of the way. Once inside, he brought her water and the first aid kit he'd stolen from his mom's bathroom. He didn't know much about helping alien injuries, but he could at least clean the purple blood and wrap her arm. Over the next 3 days, Jack brought her food and water whenever he could sneak away. She told him her name, but it sounded like crystals chiming in his mind, so he just called her Blue. She showed him how she could make tiny lights dance in the air, and he taught her how to play rock, paper, scissors. Blue told him stories about her home, a world where cities were grown from living crystals, and the sky was always full of rainbow colors. Jack told her about school, his pet hamster, and why pizza was the best food ever invented. But on the third night, everything changed. A gentle humming filled the air, and Blue's eyes went wide. Asterisk, they're here. Asterisk, her voice whispered in Jack's mind. Asterisk, the good ones. They found me. Asterisk. Jack helped her back to the crash site. A ship hung in the air above them, almost invisible except for faint lines of blue light. Before she left, Blue pressed something into Jack's hand, a crystal that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Asterisk, I'll come back. Asterisk, she promised. Asterisk, when it's safe. When I'm bigger. Keep this to remember me. Asterisk. Then she was gone, lifted into the ship by a beam of light. The ship vanished so quickly Jack wondered if he imagined it all. But the crystal in his hand was warm and real, and sometimes, when he was alone, it would glow with a soft blue light, the same color as his friend's skin. Jack never told anyone about those 3 days, but he kept the crystal, and he never forgot the girl who fell from the stars. Jack stood at the window of his research station, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and orange. At 25, he had become one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, studying alien life forms. The crystal he'd received 15 years ago hung from a chain around his neck, a constant reminder of the night that had changed his life. The research station sat on a quiet hill, surrounded by tall pine trees that reminded him of his childhood home. Inside, his lab was filled with samples from different worlds, plants that glowed in the dark, rocks that hummed when touched, and strange creatures preserved in special containers. Dr. Jack, his assistant Tom, called from the doorway. "You need to see this. The news is everywhere." Jack turned away from the window and followed Tom to the main computer screen. The headlines flashed across it in big letters. Stellar Alliance sends first diplomatic mission to Earth. But what caught Jack's attention was the image. A glimpse of blue skin and crystalline hair among the alien delegates. His hand automatically went to the crystal around his neck. It felt warmer than usual, and its soft blue glow was slightly brighter. Over the years, he had noticed it would sometimes pulse with light, especially when he was thinking about that night in the woods. "The delegation will be here tomorrow," Tom said excitedly. "They chose our station as their first stop because of our xenobiology research. Can you believe it?" Jack barely heard him. His eyes were fixed on the crystal, which was now glowing brighter than it had in years. He pulled up the energy readings from the station's sensors on his tablet. There was something familiar about the patterns. They matched the crystal's energy signature perfectly. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He sat in his office, going through old files from when Earth first made contact with alien life 5 years ago. Back then, everyone had been surprised by how many alien species looked almost human. Some had different colored skin or strange features, but many could easily pass for Earth people with good makeup. He found himself thinking about Blue, wondering if she had made it home safely all those years ago. The crystal pulsed gently, as if responding to his thoughts. Jack had tried many times to study it, but it resisted all his attempts to understand its composition. It seemed to be made of something that didn't exist on Earth. The next morning, Jack stood with his team as they prepared for the delegation's arrival. His heart was beating fast, though he told himself not to be foolish. The chances of Blue being among the delegates were tiny. The universe was vast, and 15 years was a long time. The ship that landed was beautiful, made of what looked like living crystal that shifted colors in the sunlight. As the door opened, Jack's crystal began to glow so brightly it showed through his shirt. The aliens walked out one by one, tall, dignified beings from different worlds. But Jack's eyes were drawn to the figure in the middle. She was taller now, and she wore elegant robes that sparkled like starlight, but her skin was still the same shade of blue he remembered, and her hair still looked like flowing crystal. She turned, and their eyes met. Her silver eyes widened in recognition, and a familiar voice touched his mind, softer and more mature than he remembered, but unmistakable. Asterisk, do you remember me, human? I'm the alien princess you saved, asterisk. The crystal around Jack's neck burst into brilliant blue light, matching the glow that now surrounded her. Everyone gasped, but Jack barely noticed. In that moment, he was 10 years old again, standing in the woods, meeting a friend from the stars. Time seemed to stop as Jack and the alien princess looked at each other. The other scientists and delegates stepped back, surprised by the bright blue light coming from both Jack's crystal and the princess's crystalline hair. "Welcome to Earth Research Station 1, Jack said out loud, trying to keep his voice steady. The princess smiled, and memories of sharing snacks in his old treehouse flooded back. Asterisk, you kept it safe all these years. Asterisk, her voice chimed in his mind, gesturing to the glowing crystal. Asterisk, just as I knew you would. Asterisk. One of the other delegates, a tall being with silver skin, stepped forward. Princess Liz, you know this human. The princess, Liz, nodded. This is the one I told you about, First Advisor. The boy who saved me during the first attack. She spoke out loud now, her voice like musical chimes. Though he's not a boy anymore. The other delegates started whispering among themselves. Jack noticed Tom and the other scientists doing the same. This wasn't how first contact meetings usually went. Perhaps we should move this meeting inside, Jack suggested, gesturing to the research station's conference room. There's much to discuss. Once inside, Liz told the story Jack had kept secret for 15 years. She explained how she had been just a child when assassins attacked the royal palace. Her guards put her in an escape pod, but it was damaged during the escape and crashed on Earth. The crystal you carry, she said, looking at Jack, is a royal seal. It marks you as a true friend of the crystal realm and my personal protector. It would only glow like this for someone pure of heart. Jack touched the crystal gently. All these years, I thought I dreamed some of it. But I never forgot you. Princess Liz. She laughed, the sound like tiny bells. You can still call me Blue when we're not being formal. It was a good name for a scared little girl hiding in a treehouse. The first advisor cleared his throat. Princess, the tree negotiations. Yes, of course. Liz straightened in her chair. Jack, we didn't choose your research station by accident. I've been watching your work from afar. Your understanding of different species, your gentle approach to new life forms, these are the qualities we need right now. She waved her hand, and a hologram appeared above the conference table. It showed beautiful cities made of crystal, just like she had described to him as a child. The crystal realm wants to form an alliance with Earth, she continued. But there are still those who oppose it, the same ones who tried to hurt me as a child. They think humans are too dangerous, too unpredictable. But you don't think that, Jack said. It wasn't a question. Liz shook her head. How could I? A human child showed me more kindness than some of my own people. You hid me, fed me, treated my wounds, and asked for nothing in return. The crystal pulsed with light again, and Liz's hair shimmered in response. The first advisor watched this with great interest. The royal seal has chosen, he said solemnly. This is unprecedented. A human bearing our highest mark of trust. It's more than that, Liz said softly. The crystal responds to our connection. Jack, I need your help again. Not as a scared princess this time, but as a leader trying to bring two worlds together. Will you help me? Jack looked around the room. At his fellow scientists, at the alien delegates, at the hologram of the crystal cities, and finally at Liz. In her silver eyes, he still saw the frightened girl he'd helped all those years ago. But now he also saw strength, wisdom, and hope. He gripped the crystal, feeling its warmth. Just like when we were kids, I'll help however I can. The next few days at the research station were unlike anything Jack had experienced before. Security teams from both Earth and the Crystal Realm patrolled the grounds, and important officials kept arriving for meetings. But something wasn't right. Jack could feel it in the way his crystal would pulse with warning light at strange times. He was studying some data in his lab when the first attack came. The lights flickered, and an alarm blared through the station. Jack's crystal suddenly grew hot against his chest. Asterisk Jack. Behind you asterisk, Liz's voice rang in his mind. He dove to the side just as a beam of energy burned through the spot where he'd been standing. A figure in black armor stood in the doorway, holding a weapon that glowed with dark purple energy. The attacker raised their weapon again, but suddenly they were thrown across the room by a blast of blue light. Liz stood in the other doorway, her crystalline hair glowing with power. Are you hurt? She asked, rushing to help Jack up. I'm fine, he said, catching his breath. But how did they get past security? They had help from inside, the first advisor said, hurrying into the room with a group of guards. Princess, we must move you to a safer location. Liz shook her head. No, I won't run away this time. She turned to Jack. We need to call an emergency meeting. Now. An hour later, human and alien leaders sat around the conference table. The captured attacker's helmet had been removed, revealing another blue-skinned being like Liz. They want to stop the alliance, Liz explained. They believe mixing with humans will weaken our people. The same reason they tried to prevent me from taking the throne 15 years ago. But why target Jack? Tom asked from his place at the table. The first advisor stepped forward. Because of what the royal seal means. He pointed to Jack's crystal. In our history, only 2 humans have ever been given a royal seal. The first was thousands of years ago, and that human became one of our greatest leaders through marriage to the crown. Jack's eyes widened as he understood. They think I chose you as my future husband, Liz said quietly. And they're not entirely wrong. The room erupted in surprised voices. Earth officials started arguing about protocols and treaties. The Crystal Realm delegates began discussing ancient laws and prophecies. Quiet. Liz's voice rang out, and everyone fell silent. This is not just about marriage. The royal seal chose Jack because he represents the best of both our peoples. He studies life forms from all worlds with respect and care. He helps others without asking for reward. She smiled at him. He once shared his lunch with a scared alien girl who had nothing to give in return. Jack's crystal pulsed warmly, and he stood up. The attackers are wrong about humans making you weak, he said. Our differences make us stronger. Look at this research station. We study creatures and plants from 100 worlds, learning from each one. Together, we understand more than we ever could alone. The first advisor nodded slowly. The old prophecy speaks of a time when the stars would align and the crystal realm would find its greatest ally through an act of pure kindness. But a political marriage, one of the Earth officials protested. It's too sudden. Actually, Jack said, surprising himself as much as everyone else, it's been 15 years in the making. He touched his crystal, feeling its steady warmth. And I don't think we have much choice. The attackers won't stop until they destroy any chance of an alliance. Liz stepped closer to him, her silver eyes meeting his. Are you sure about this? Her voice whispered in his mind. Jack smiled, remembering a scared girl and a brave princess who turned out to be the same person. I've been sure since I was 10 years old. I just didn't know it yet. Jack sat alone in his lab late that night, watching his crystal glow softly in the darkness. The events of the day felt like a dream. The attack, the revelation about the royal seal, and the possibility of marriage to an alien princess. His whole life had changed in just a few hours. The door opened quietly, and Liz walked in. She had changed from her formal robes into simpler clothes that reminded Jack of what she'd worn in the escape pod all those years ago. I thought I'd find you here, she said, sitting next to him. You always did like quiet places to think. I remember the treehouse. Jack smiled. It's funny. Back then, all I wanted was to learn about the stars and different worlds. Now I'm about to marry someone from one. You don't have to, Liz said softly. I won't force you into this just because of politics. Before Jack could answer, his computer beeped. New data from his latest experiments appeared on the screen. Studies about how crystal realm biology interacted with Earth environments. He'd been researching this for years without knowing why it felt so important. Look at this, he said, pointing to the screen. Your people can survive perfectly well on Earth, and humans could live in the crystal realm with minimal protection. It's like we were meant to find each other, Liz finished. She touched the screen, her fingers leaving trails of soft blue light. My scientists found the same thing. Our worlds are compatible in ways that should be impossible. Jack's crystal pulsed, and suddenly the computer screen filled with new information, ancient texts and diagrams he'd never seen before. The crystal was somehow accessing hidden data about the crystal realm's history. The royal seal, Liz gasped. It's not just a symbol. It's a key to our oldest knowledge. Together, they read through the files. Long ago, the crystal realm and Earth had been connected. The first human to receive a royal seal had helped save both worlds from a great darkness. History was repeating itself. The attackers, Jack said suddenly. They're not just against our marriage. They're afraid of what we might discover together. He looked at his research data again. All these years, I've been preparing for this without knowing it. My work with different species, understanding how they can live together. Liz took his hand. Her skin was cool against his, just like when they were children. And I've been learning about Earth, preparing my people for change. We both had our parts to play. The crystal glowed brighter, projecting a map of both Earth and the crystal realm. Strange energy patterns connected the two worlds, pulsing like heartbeats. "I'm not afraid of marrying you," Jack said quietly. "I'm afraid of failing. There's so much at stake." Liz smiled, and for a moment she looked just like the brave little girl who trusted him with her life. "Remember what you told me in the treehouse. Being scared is okay. Doing the right thing anyway is what matters." Jack laughed. "I was trying to sound wise like my dad." "Well, it worked." She squeezed his hand. "We can figure this out together, just like we did when we were kids." The crystal pulsed one more time, showing them images of a possible future. Earth and crystal realm ships flying together among the stars. Cities where humans and crystal beings lived side by side. Children of both worlds playing together. "It's not just about us anymore," Jack said. "It's about everyone who comes after us." He stood up, still holding Liz's hand. "I choose this. I choose to help make that future real." Liz's hair sparkled with joy, filling the room with tiny rainbow lights. "Asterisk knew you would asterisk," her voice sang in his mind. "Asterisk, you haven't changed at all since we were children. Still brave, still kind, still doing the right thing, asterisk." Outside the lab windows, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if they too were witnessing a moment that would change two worlds forever. The attack came at dawn. Red warning lights flashed throughout the research station as multiple ships appeared in the sky. But these weren't crystal realm ships. They were a strange mix of technologies from different worlds. "They're not just from my world," Liz said, running into the control room where Jack was working. "The people who want to stop us have allies from other places too. They're afraid of Earth becoming too powerful." Jack's crystal was pulsing rapidly, warning of danger. On the main screen, they could see more ships appearing above major cities around Earth. At the same time, reports were coming in about attacks on the Crystal Realm's main cities. "They're trying to start a war," the first advisor said, rushing in with new reports. "They're attacking both worlds at once, trying to make each side blame the other." Jack looked at his research data, then at the crystal. "No," he said firmly. "We're not going to let that happen." He turned to Liz. "Remember how we shared stories when we were kids? How we learned to trust each other?" Liz nodded, her hair glowing brighter as she understood. "We need to show everyone the truth, just like we showed each other." They ran to Jack's lab, where his years of research were stored. The crystal suddenly flew from his neck, floating between them. It grew brighter and brighter until it filled the room with blue light. "It's connecting to the crystal realm's ancient defense system," Liz gasped. "Just like in the old stories." The crystal's light spread through the research station's communication system. Suddenly, every screen on Earth and in the crystal realm showed the same images, the history of both worlds, the ancient connection between them, and the truth about the attackers. But the enemy ships were still attacking. One blast hit the research station, shaking the whole building. Jack grabbed Liz's hand as they stumbled. "We need to do more," he said. "The crystal shows the truth, but people have to choose to believe it." Liz squeezed his hand, and her voice rang out not just in his mind, but through the crystal's connection to everyone watching. Asterisk, look at us, a human and a crystal being working together. The same human who saved me as a child, who showed kindness when he could have shown fear. This is what our future can be, asterisk. Jack added his own voice. We're stronger together. Look at what we've learned from each other. Look at what we can build together. The crystal pulsed again, and this time it showed everyone Jack's research, proof that their worlds could work together, could help each other grow stronger. It showed the future they had seen, but now everyone could see it too. On the screens, they could see people from both worlds starting to fight back against the attackers. Crystal Realm ships were protecting Earth cities. Human pilots were defending Crystal cities. The enemy's plan to divide them was backfiring, bringing them closer together instead. The Royal Seal, the first advisor, said in awe. It's not just showing us the past, it's helping us build the future. Another blast rocked the station. Jack and Liz held onto each other, the crystal's light surrounding them like a shield. Through their connection, they could feel both worlds joining together, fighting off the darkness just like in the ancient stories. Together, Jack asked, looking into Liz's silver eyes. Asterisk together, asterisk, she answered in his mind. Asterisk, just like when we were children. Just like we'll always be, asterisk. The crystal's light grew until it was brighter than any star, reaching out to touch every person on both worlds. And in that light, everyone could see the truth that a human boy and an alien girl had learned 15 years ago in a treehouse. The universe was better when you faced it with a friend by your side. 1 year later, Jack stood in the great crystal hall of the royal palace, looking out at the rainbow sky of his new home. The crystal realm was even more beautiful than Liz had described in her childhood stories. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of the celebration. Humans and crystal beings laughing and talking together like old friends. Thinking deep thoughts, Liz asked, coming to stand beside him. She wore her crystal crown, but her smile was the same one he remembered from their treehouse days. Just remembering, he said. It's hard to believe how much has changed since the attack. And so much had changed. After the crystal revealed the truth to everyone, the attackers had lost their support. People from both worlds had come together to stop them. Now, a year later, the first joint cities were being built, places where humans and crystal beings could live together. The royal seal, still hanging around Jack's neck, glowed softly. It was more than just a crystal now. It had become a symbol of the connection between their worlds. Young humans and crystal beings wore similar crystals to school, learning about each other's cultures and sharing stories just like Jack and Liz once did. Your research center opens tomorrow, Liz reminded him, her hair sparkling with excitement. The first place where scientists from both worlds will work together. Jack smiled. The center was built near where his old research station had stood. Children from both worlds would be able to visit, learning about different species and cultures, just like he'd always dreamed, but better because now he could share it with everyone. Asterisk, do you ever miss Earth? Asterisk, Liz's voice asked in his mind. After their marriage, they had discovered that their mental connection had grown stronger. Now they could share not just words but feelings and memories too. Sometimes, Jack admitted, but I can visit any time. And look, he pointed to where Earth shone in the crystal sky, bright and blue. I can see it every day from here. The door to the hall opened, and Tom walked in, now Earth's official ambassador to the Crystal Realm. They're ready for you both, he said, grinning. The children can't wait to hear the story again. Jack and Liz looked at each other and laughed. At every celebration, the children from both worlds would beg to hear their story, how a human boy had helped an alien princess, how they found each other again, and how their friendship had changed everything. They walked together to the great hall, where hundreds of faces looked up at them eagerly. Human children sat next to crystal children, all wearing their own small crystals that glowed like stars. Tell us about the treehouse, one crystal child called out. No, tell us about the bad guys, a human child shouted. Tell us about the wedding, several voices said together. Liz squeezed Jack's hand, and together they began the story they both knew so well. It started on a summer night when a brave little human boy heard a crash in the woods. As they told their story, the royal seal glowed brightly, projecting images in the air. A crashed pod, a treehouse, a crystal that had waited 15 years to bring two people back together. The children gasped and cheered at all the right moments, even though most had heard it many times before. Later that night, Jack and Liz stood in their favorite palace garden, watching the stars. The garden had a treehouse, built to look just like the one from Jack's childhood. Sometimes they would sit up there, sharing stories just like they used to. "We did it," Jack said softly. "We made that future we saw in the crystal come true." Liz rested her head on his shoulder, her crystal hair mixing with the starlight. We're still making it come true, every day. And it all started because a human boy wasn't afraid to help an alien girl. Above them, Earth and the crystal realm's sun shone together in the rainbow sky, like two old friends sharing a beautiful, endless day.